Hey everyone, this is Isaiah from Player Development. Today we are back doing a type of video that we haven't done in a while, talking about current events in sports. And today what we're going to be touching on is the athlete sponsors of FTX. Now, FTX is a crypto company. They were marketed as a safe and accessible way for anybody to be able to trade cryptocurrencies and to be able to invest in a way that was going to yield more than banks and be safe and secure. Now, one of the reasons that FTX made a lot of press, made a lot of headlines, was because they had really high profile sponsors, specifically athletes. So, if you've been watching sports over the past couple of months or so, at the very least, you saw ads with guys like Tom Brady, Steph Curry, Shaquille O'Neal, Naomi Osaka, big name players who were sponsoring this platform. What's come out is that FTX has had a lot of issues in terms of shady operations, not having enough cash, and when people started to try to withdraw their money from FTX, they actually didn't have enough to be able to have everybody cash out. And so they filed for bankruptcy recently, and people have started suing the company based on their practices and how that's hurt and affected common people. And where this gets interesting and where it touches with sports, a lot of these athletes who have signed on with FTX have also been named in a class action lawsuit. Now, I'm not a lawyer. My understanding of a class action lawsuit is that instead of just suing on behalf of one individual, the case is brought representing an entire class of individuals who are affected by this. And not only is FTX named as one of the defendants, a lot of these athletes, Tom Brady, Steph Curry, Shaquille O'Neal, Naomi Osaka, they've also all been named as part of this lawsuit. And so the question comes up, how liable are athletes for the products that they endorse? We'll dig into some of these ads that these athletes have produced and see if there's anything shady going on. One article that I read was talking about if these athletes were more partners with FTX rather than just people who were endorsing the product, that could change how things look for them. And here's what that means is basically if Tom Brady or Steph Curry had advance word that there were issues with having enough cash at FTX or their partner Alameda Research, and if they were able to take advantage of that information to know to cash out early on, and they were able to make money off of that while other people were not able to because they didn't have that insider knowledge, that could look a lot worse for these athletes because they had that advanced knowledge and could take advantage of it. What we're trying to figure out is, are these athletes victims or were they perpetrators, part of this scheme? And of course, some of the questions come up also, how responsible are athletes for screening the products that they endorse? Obviously, sponsoring products is a lucrative business. That's a huge source of income for professional athletes. I think it was Tiger Woods, makes a ton of money off of endorsements. Obviously, LeBron James, Steph Curry, partnering with shoe companies, with Gatorade, and those are just the most obvious ones that come to mind. And obviously, these guys are not necessarily financial experts. Like the whole FTX ad with Steph Curry is about how he's not a crypto expert.
This is Steph Curry, the world's leading expert on cryptocurrency.
I'm not.
But what Dr. Mike says on his channel a lot of times is it's when you make a claim that gets you into trouble. I know it's difficult to tease out the language between just a commercial that's trying to sell you something versus trying to make a claim or a promise. But let's look at some of these ads and figure out if they're trying to make some kind of claim, and should these athletes have been on top of that to not promise something that they can't deliver. And I know it feels like splitting hairs, but really, this is the country that gave us the lawsuit about Red Bull not actually giving you wings. So we got to take that for what it's worth.
Hang on a minute. How dare you call this number? Okay, I'm in. Whatever.
Who's that?
That was my mom.
Hey, Donut, don't eat that.
Yo, what's up? Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm in.
I'm in. Hey, Arthur, I quit.
So stop that there. This is where I have a problem with Tom Brady's ad. He's showing a guy quitting his job And the implication is because FTX is so solid and you'll get so much money off of it that you don't even need to work a day job anymore.
But you are an expert, right?
No, I'm not an expert, and I don't need to be. With FTX, I have everything I need to buy, sell, and trade crypto safely.
So the whole thing with Steph Curry's ad here is that it's a safe and very accessible way to trade crypto. So for the average person who doesn't know anything about cryptocurrency, right? That's what Steph Curry's saying. Like, I don't know anything. I'm not an expert. I can't teach anybody anything, but FTX handles it for me. And obviously, as we've seen now, safety was not an accurate selling point for the FTX platform.
Why don't we just let Naomi speak for herself?
We have a mock-up for that, actually.
I'm Naomi Osaka, and I'm proud to partner with FTX. Making cryptocurrency accessible is a goal that FTX and I are striving towards.
And then finally, for Naomi Osaka's ad, definitely looked like she's pushing the language of a partnership, making crypto available regardless of their knowledge, regardless of how much money they have, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's a tricky question. Like I said, I'm not a financial expert. I'm not a lawyer. I know that as an athlete myself, as a pro athlete myself, we've been encouraged to get sponsorships from local companies and businesses that we visit and that we buy stuff from. I'll say that if a company approached me to do a sponsorship, I probably wouldn't think twice about it in the first place, even if I hadn't used their products before. Like, that's an exciting thing to be wanted by a company to say, hey, we want you to represent our brand. Like, that's a big thing. I feel like when you get to the level of being Stephen Curry or Naomi Osaka or Tom Brady, you're probably inundated with so many different partnership requests, different endorsements and sponsorships, that at that point it might be up to your agent to be able to screen those and say, like, hey, what are you comfortable with? What do you want to represent? Do your values and this company's values line up? And then if you don't know, maybe that's when you have the resources to bring in an expert to say, like, hey, is this solid? Am I promising something that they can't deliver? Am I going to be liable for something going wrong here? And I do think that's a miss on the part of the agents and these athletes' teams who didn't pick up on any of these issues. And now these athletes are on the hook potentially for something that maybe they weren't aware of. And one objection that might come up is that, hey, they didn't make anybody buy into FTX. They didn't make anybody invest in FTX. I mean, that's the whole point of having celebrity sponsorships, right? They add that level of credibility. And a lot of articles I read talked about how FTX really skyrocketed because they secured these high profile sponsors, these people who are instantly recognizable, who have a connection with their fans, who appear trustworthy to those fans. And if they're selling it, if they say they're on it and they're making money off of it, then that lends a lot of credibility to that platform that people may feel taken advantage of at this point. So like I said, I don't know how this is going to shake out. It could be that it gets ruled that these athletes are completely not responsible for what happened, or they might have to pay some kind of penalty in the end. Regardless, what happens is that average people are the ones who got hurt through this. When companies take advantage of those sponsorships, take advantage of those athletes' credibility to lure people in and take advantage of them using irresponsible business practices, those people get hurt. And so all that to say, I don't think the bulk of the responsibility is necessarily on these athletes for making sure they fully understand what they're signing up for, but at least on their part to read through what they're being asked to say, what they're selling, what they're promising, and then to communicate clearly to their agents and to their teams to be able to say, hey, check this out, make sure this lines up with my values, make sure this is something that is responsible or ethical and does well for the people who are buying into me, basically, people who are buying based on my recommendation. And, you think about, like, there are these athletes who will be sponsored by supplement brands or by exercise equipment. If they were to know that that stuff is not safe and they sold it anyway, and especially if they promised that there was some kind of benefit to it, some kind of unique benefit that only that product could provide, or whether it's promising its safety or that it's a perfect fit for everybody, Again, see, that language is where you kind of get into trouble about making claims and making promises. So again, I'm interested in how this will all turn out, because I think this has a potential to be a landmark case for how athletes screen and look at their sponsors in the future, and how companies work with athletes. And like I said, for these pro athletes, I hope it is a wake-up call for them to talk to their agents, to talk to their teams about the products that they sponsor, and not just looking at the dollar signs at the end of it, because companies are bringing them on the team to bring their fans, to bring loyalty and credibility. I hope that they can continue to make money off of that, but not abuse it. Guys, thanks for checking out this video. I love talking about this current event stuff, and the FTX saga is super fascinating reading. Like I said, we haven't done one of these videos in a little while, so I'm glad to get back into it. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. As we're continuing to grow, that helps us to continue growing and continue creating great content. Catch you all next time.